curves down are exponential as well. The first couple of years look bad, but they're not that bad. But you know in your mind that 10 years from now, it's going to be a fucking disaster. So what I saw with Expedia was a technology company whose technology engine was broken. Code base was old, had not been reinvested in. Technology leadership was coasting. And that really alarmed me. And one of the things that I learned from Barry in terms of leadership is that when, a bell is rung, when you see something, when you see a pattern, you have to act. You can't wait for a second. So in my mind, once I figured out, oh my God, this really is a turnaround. This isn't like a company that I've got to tune. This company, if I don't move and move hard and fast, is going to start on that exponential decay curve. I had to move quickly. And at that point, and I am, one of the skills that I learned from Barry is transparency. It's like whenever he wanted to understand an issue, he wanted to go to the source. He didn't want a summary. And it didn't matter where that source was. Is it a junior analyst or a president? He wanted to hear from the source because what he didn't want to lose is lose the fidelity of the issue. When there's an issue here and then it goes through the analyst and the associate and the vice president and an SVP and whatever, by the time it's summarized for you as the CEO, it's lost everything. And usually their levels are like, hey, do we really want to tell them that? Why don't we phrase it this way, et cetera? So your whole life as a CEO is kind of it's a version of the world that your team wants you to see. And if you got a good team, usually it has more to do with reality than not. But you are subject to your team and the information flow that gets to you. And so Barry always wanted to go to the source. He would just cut through levels, get to the core of the idea. And then once he did, he would move and he would move fast. And for me, I have held on to that, but I've also turned it the other way, which is one of the ways in which I can depend on getting the real shit from you is my being honest with you, right? And human beings are good bullshit, kind of meters, so to speak. And when you're the CEO and you're talking to your staff and you're giving all the, the business talk and we're doing this, but the last quarter we had some certain challenges and this and that, they see you bullshitting them. And so why the hell should they tell you the truth, right? If their boss isn't telling them the good stuff, why should they give the good stuff back to the boss? So for me, it was almost like a self-defense mechanism that as a boss, I'm going to tell you what's going on because that's the only way I can drag the hard truths back from you. Because otherwise you're going to filter yourself. You're going to be like, I don't want Dara to know this happened.
But do you ever worry that they might not be able to deal with the truth?
Then they can leave. And I think that's what my head of HR was saying. I was scaring the shit out of people because I'm like, we have a real problem here and we've got to come together. And I think that there's a good decision-making framework for me is if I make a mistake, where do I want to make the mistake on, right? And so if I'm going to err with my company, I'm going to err in telling the truth and potentially scaring someone away. I'll take that. Because if that person doesn't want to face the truth, if he or she's not up for the fight, then they should go someplace else. They can have a good time. I'm sure they can have a good career, et cetera. So for me as a leader, I've always believed in transparency, partially because then I think you attract the right people, and partially because then I'm going to get the good information to act on. Usually the failures I see with CEOs aren't because they made the wrong decisions. It's because they were getting the wrong data that led to the wrong decisions. So it's incredibly important as a leader of any organization for you to build the channels and build the kind of culture that surfaces problems to you quickly. And then for me too, you always have to have your random direct channels. Again, if you think about organizations as organisms, they have their own incentives. And so my staff's incentive is to control the information that gets to me. Not because they're bad people, it's just their job, because I can get overwhelmed. Who do I meet with? What's my schedule? Is this person worthy of meeting the CEO? And for me, my fight is I just set up a bunch of random shit. I'll meet with, engineers 4 levels down consistently, because usually they've got the kind of personality where they don't give a shit. They'll tell me anything and everything, and they like putting the CEO down. That's great.
They like putting the CEO down.
It's, engineers often, don't like authority, and code is like the biggest authority buster. It's like the truth. So I find a lot of engineers have a personality, which is, I'm going to tell you what it's like. Like their value is in something else, but often there's a kind of a disrespect for authority that I love.
I've found in my companies that there's sometimes like a 24-year-old young girl who will just tell me the truth.
Yeah.
And
she's the one you want to hang out with.
She's the one I always go and ask for an opinion.
Absolutely. And so that's you've got to have your own channels. But the way to get transparency from your team is first you've got to give it to them.
Was the culture hardworking when you arrived? Because you used the word coasting to describe some of the team when you arrived at Expedia.
Medium. I think the company had been successful for a long time and had coasted on that success to some extent. So I needed to turn over like the entire team very, very quickly and get some hungry people in there.
The entire team?
Almost the entire team. Yeah. It was rough going for a while. But then you have kind of mission-oriented people who are trying to prove themselves. And it's part of the renewal that every company has to go through. And we turned it around. It was tough going, but we really turned around. And that was when I learned, hey, my love is running shit. It's great. It's the best part of my job.
How did you get that company to work hard? Because there's so many people listening right now that are in a company that might have been successful, hosting, might be 2 decades in. And this is an ultimate question in like executive management. How do you turn around the culture of a big, or even 200 people?
It's very difficult. And sometimes the shortcut is just change the people. Like it's very easy to say, oh, you have values, this and that. So it's finding the people who you believe will line up with your cultural mechanisms or how you work or your values. And then embodying those values and those mechanisms as examples, and then making sure that your team embodies those values and imbues down the organization. So part of working hard is like, sending emails to the team on a Saturday, and if I don't get a response on Saturday, sending them an email on Sunday with a question mark. What's going on? I think at Expedia, in hindsight, we worked intensely and we went hard, but not as hard as I like, because Expedia we were selling vacations. Right? It was the product that we were selling was about turning yourself off. And so we did talk about work-life balance. And in hindsight, at Uber, I don't. You come to Uber, you're going to work your ass off. We're going to be really demanding. If you're not performing, we're going to let you know. And if you don't fix it, we're going to push you out. But while it will be incredibly hard, you will have real agency at the company. We're a big company, but individuals can make a big difference. And it's a company that's making a difference in the world. You're going to learn so much. And while you will have worked hard, you're going to have a great time. But don't come here if you want to coast. And I'm very clear about that. And I should have been more clear at Expedia, but we were selling vacations, so I couldn't be quite that clear.
New Year always has a strange energy to it because people start talking about their goals, fresh starts, and new habits. But the reality is that most people carry the same ideas they had last year into the new year. I'm guilty of that too. And they still don't end up doing anything with them. And I get why. Starting something new, especially if it's a business or a project, is overwhelming. Before you start, you're looking for the perfect moment and to be the perfect version of yourself, when really what matters most is taking that first step. If you had an idea for a while, a product, a store, something you've been sitting on, our sponsor Shopify makes it easy to get started because you can build your store, sell on socials, take payments, use AI tools, and manage everything all in one place. So if 2026 is the year you finally back yourself, go to shopify.co.uk/Bartlett and start selling. And you can sign up for a $1 per month trial right now too. Just go to shopify.co.uk/Bartlett. I promise you, you don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to start. In your 12 years as CEO, Expedia stock rose 550% and sales increased 400% from 2.1 billion to 8.8 billion. And you were the highest paid CEO of a US tech company with a pay of 94.1 million.
I left it all behind to go to Uber.
You left it all behind.
It was a big options package that I never vested, but it's all good. It was a great run.
I'm so intrigued about this point of hard work because I think 10 years ago, saying what you just said was very taboo.
Yes.
It feels to be more in vogue now.
We're freed now, yes.
You're freed now.
Yes, indeed. I've gotten, sometimes people ask you the question, what advice would you give to young people? And to me, the most important skill in life is the skill of working hard. And it's not a skill, you can't just decide you're going to do it. And I think way too many people, focus on should you be a computer programmer or a doctor or study the liberal arts now that anyone can vibe code. Just learn to work hard. And it is, when you see the top athletes, of course they're talented. And their talent level is world levels. But the thing that changes that's different about the elite athletes than the non-elite athletes, and I'm talking elite, is they work their asses off. They're disciplined, they're structured, they're relentless. Look at Ronaldo, look at Michael Jordan, et cetera. That's the same thing is true in all of life. It's true in business, it's true in personal life. And so for me, with my kids, I just want to teach them how to work hard. And for me, growing up, as a banker, as an executive, I'm not going to let anyone outwork me. And if that's true, then they may be smarter, more talented, et cetera, but I'm not going to let anyone outwork me. And I think that's a huge advantage that you have. And over a period of time, that advantage compounds. And I want that in our company. I want Uber to be an incredibly hardworking company.
Comes at a cost though, no? Working hard.
Yes. It comes at a trade-off. And we believe in flexibility. So people confuse kind of lack of flexibility to working hard. You can work hard, and at the same time, you can have flexibility. So if you want to have dinner with your family, and I'm religious about having dinners with my family when I'm in town, 6 to 8, absolutely spend that time with my family. But at 9:30 p.m., I'm checking emails, right? When I wake up at 5:30 a.m., I'm checking emails. So of course there are trade-offs, and life is about trade-offs.
I think one of the most important things I've learned from interviewing CEOs, and generally we've gone through a transition of COVID and remote work and then come back into everyone's in the office again, is actually the most important thing is what you've just said, which is being honest with people so that they can make decisions for themselves in their lives. I think the thing that one might describe as toxic is when you say something publicly, but then when they arrive, it's a completely different deal. But what you're doing is you're being honest, and you're therefore allowing people to make decisions for themselves within their own lives.
And I'm allowing them to be honest back to me.
Yeah. And that's a company culture that someone like me would be attracted to.
Absolutely.
But there's lots of people listening that couldn't think of anything worse.
And that's okay.
Yes. Yeah.
There are plenty of companies that they could find, or plenty of causes that they can find. It's fine.
You said learn to work hard. Learn.
It's a skill.
Really?
Yes, of course it is.
Because
you've got to the idea of just staying focused on something, not being discouraged by failing, trying over and over again, and just working harder than others. It's not something you can turn on and off. I see it in people all the time. There's just this grim determination. We at Uber, there's actually saying it's inside one of our values. Embrace the grind. Embrace it. That's a learned skill. That's not something you're born with. Maybe there's an element that you're born with.
Have you ever seen someone who isn't a hard worker become a really hard worker? An exceptionally hard worker?
Oh, that's a good question. No one doesn't occur to me. Have you?
No, I heard I think it might have been maybe Brian Chesky at Airbnb or Elon say that he's never seen someone who wasn't a hard worker become a really hard worker.
That's interesting.
And this is why
I'm trying to come up with someone. I'm failing so far.
And maybe I might posit that it's somewhat to do with, these photos that you have in front of you. Your childhood, your early context, which, You didn't choose.
I wasn't working hard here, but yeah.
But that, you were forged in such a way that you were going to be ruthless. Sorry, relentless is the word I meant.
Yeah, I mean, ruthless to myself. Mm-hmm. Relentless is right. I think at one point Jeff Bezos was going to call Amazon relentless. That was he was thinking about that being the name of the company, right? It's just and that is when I see successful technology companies, and especially technology companies, there is this relentlessness about them. Like at Uber, we have lots of different groups that are trying to do different things, but each and every team is built and targeted on optimizing and improving their own particular function. There isn't a piece of the company that is not improving every single day. And if they're not improving fast enough, someone else is going to take their place and going to improve it. So as an organism, every part of the company, whether it's a payments team in terms of new payments types or payment success, or the fraud team, or the mobile app team in terms of conversions, et cetera, every team is set up in and organized for and goaled on improving everything that they do. So the whole company in small ways is constantly improving, never ever stopping. And it is that relentless nature of business. And it's not good enough to get better. We have to get better faster than our competitors, because our competitors are all getting better as well. So it's basically like, who can adapt faster to either the reality of the market as it is today or the prediction of the market as you see it tomorrow. And it's the speed of change and it's the identification of the opportunity. Those are the two factors I think that are most important. And the speed of change, if you can work fast, you're kind of accelerating time. Every one shot that you take, I can take 2 shots. I've got more time than you do. And then, of course, there's identifying the opportunity and going after it. Those are the 2 things you really have to get right.
If you're taking 2 shots, not only are you going to get 2 data points of information, but you're also increasing your probability of having a successful shot by like 100%.
Shots on goal. Just shots on goal.
How do you create a culture of continuous improvement? Because successful companies, as you kind of highlighted earlier, they become complacent with their victories and they like to take some time off and celebrate. Yeah. And, we high five and then we chill. And then actually the studies show, they did this big meta-analysis where they looked at successful companies and they showed that they become risk adverse.
Totally.
Because of the loss aversion. They have something to lose now. So just protect.
I think the good news to some extent with Uber is that we've always been a company that has had a chip on its shoulder. The company had a chip on its shoulder when it was founded and it had to fight taxi unions for its very existence. And then the disaster happened with Travis leaving and then a new CEO coming in at the time. That was a really, really difficult time. Then we went through a period of COVID, which was, again, a disaster for the company, but ultimately prepared us to do better. Then people saying, it was a tough IPO. Uber's never going to get profitable. And today we're incredibly successful, but we've got the challenge and the opportunity of AI and autonomous. So we've always been a company that has been, I would say, underestimated. And that feeds into our culture. We are a hungry company. And I do think we're sometimes guilty of getting complacent in little ways. And I have a leadership team that when they see complacency more often than not, they identify it and they get it the hell out. It's a team that is not satisfied, that's always driving. And I love that about us.
How does one balance enjoying the success and the accomplishments? I mean, you've turned this company around, highly profitable company. Everyone that I've spoken to, many of our mutual friends have talked lovingly about the impact you've had on the business. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. When you joined Uber, Uber was losing 2.5 to 3 billion per year. Now it generates 8.5 billion in free cash flow every year. How do you get people to
9.8 in the last year? But who's counting?
You're counting. 9.8. Okay, incredible. Celebrate. Chill.
Sure. Well,